Hello Dragons, and welcome to this instructional video for Lesson 3 Part 2, How Candidates and Groups Try to Influence Your Vote. The main idea behind the civics lesson is candidates and interest groups try to influence voters through a variety of campaign methods. By recognizing certain propaganda techniques, voters can make better decisions in selecting a candidate. With that in mind, by the end of watching this video, you will be able to describe ways that candidates get their messages to voters, analyze the role of interest groups in the election process, explain how candidates and interest groups try to influence the way people vote, and explore the importance of the media in election campaigns. Now that the outcomes for this lesson have been shared with you, let's get started. The television screen shows a man walking down a quiet, tree-lined street holding the hands of his two young children. You hear an announcer saying, "Bob Kane has lived in our city all his life. He graduated from our public schools. His children attend those schools. He knows your problems and he knows what you want." Another television ad shows an empty jail cell. A frightened voice says, "What Bob Kane has done puts criminals back in our neighborhoods, not here where they belong." Before an election, you will see and hear many campaign messages. Each will try to influence how you vote. Some will give you information, while others, like those TV ads, will try to play on your fears and other feelings. In evaluating such messages, you should be aware that you cannot always trust what they say. Candidates have many different methods to try to get you, the voter, to vote for them. Depending on the office for which they are running and the number of votes they must win, they may shake your hand in person or buy thousands of dollars worth of television advertising time. As a voter, you will want to know about the many ways candidates try to get their messages to you. In the months before Election Day, you will see posters and stickers plastered on lampposts, billboards, windows, and car bumpers. You will also see people wearing buttons, pins, and caps with candidates' names on them. People running for office want to make their names known to the voters. To give voters a better picture of the person behind the name, candidates use leaflets and flyers. Volunteers hand them out at shopping centers and put them under your door. Such leaflets give short biographical sketches of the candidate and tell where they stand on the major issues. All this information is written to appeal to as many voters as possible. Candidates running for a town council usually campaign in a personal way. The number of people who vote in such elections are so small, often fewer than 1,000, that candidates can meet most voters in person. They ring doorbells and hold neighborhood meetings, bringing their messages to citizens through conversations and speeches to small groups. Even in elections for state and national offices, candidates appear in person to spread their messages among the voters. Your chance to meet someone running for state or national office usually comes at huge political rallies in public parks or auditoriums or at neighborhood political meetings. At these events, the candidates make speeches telling you why you should elect them and not the people running against them. One of the best ways to get the attention of voters is by mail. With the help of computers, candidates can use direct mail, a way of sending messages to large groups of people through the mail. Direct mail allows candidates to target voters who have special interests. A candidate can send a message to senior citizens promising to support higher Social Security payments. Candidates for state and national office must reach very large numbers of voters. They have found that one of the best ways to get their messages out is through advertisements in the media, television, radio, newspapers, magazines, and the internet. However, using the media can be very expensive. A full-page ad in a major newspaper costs thousands of dollars. The cost of a few minutes of television can run into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Since television time and newspaper space are so expensive, political advertisements are usually short and simple. They often give very little in the way of information. Instead, they try to grab your attention and to focus on a candidate's personality rather than qualifications and abilities. Many media ads depend on slogans, such as "Building a Better Tomorrow" or "It's Morning in America." For these reasons, TV and newspaper ads are not a good source of information about what a candidate would do if elected. They rarely say much, for example, about how a candidate plans to fight the drug problem or improve the economy. However, some of these ads do tell voters what stands the candidates have taken on major issues. Candidates are not the only people trying to get your vote. Interest groups, too, put out their share of direct mail and media ads. Interest groups want to help elect candidates who agree with their views and to defeat candidates who have taken stands against them. Interest groups also work to pass or defeat ballot measures. Interest groups try to achieve their election goals in two other ways. They endorse, or lend their names in support of, candidates and ballot measures. They also give money to campaigns. The largest interest groups have political action committees, or PACs, whose job is to carry out these election activities. PACs often work very hard for and against ballot measures. For example, in a 2009 ballot measure in Missouri asked voters to decide if citizens should be allowed to carry concealed handguns, the National Rifle Association campaigned in support of the measure, while Handgun Control, Inc. worked to defeat it. PACs also give large sums of money to campaigns for state and national office. United States senators running for re-election in 2014 received an average of more than $5 million each from PACs. Since the early 1970s, the number of PACs in the United States has grown from just over 600 to over 4,000. Some PACs get their money from the people they represent: union members, employees of businesses, and corporation stockholders. Others use direct mail to find people who agree with their views and will send them large sums of money. The success of both methods of raising money has given PACs a large voice in campaigns. Federal law limits the amount that PACs may give to each candidate. However, there are few rules for how much PACs may spend on running their own campaigns. Many people believe that PACs have too much influence on the outcome of elections. They charge that the special interests that PACs represent are gaining too much power in government. Each interest group represents only a small percentage of Americans, or cares about only one issue, they say. Through PACs, however, interest groups can have a voice in who will hold office and make decisions on issues that affect everyone. Although some people want limits placed on what PACs can do, other people are opposed to such limits. They argue that PACs are simply using their First Amendment right of free speech. Why do candidates and interest groups work so hard to get their messages across to voters? They will all have the same goal: to influence the way you think and act. A message that is meant to influence people's ideas, opinions, or actions in a certain way is called propaganda. Do you think of propaganda as lies or false information? Although propaganda can include lies, it can also contain truthful or mostly truthful information. A message is called propaganda when it tells only one side of the story, distorts the truth, or appeals mostly to people's feelings. Messages from candidates and PACs make use of many different kinds of propaganda. Glittering generalities use words or phrases that sound appealing and that everyone agrees with. Card stacking uses only facts that support one side of an argument. Plain folks tells voters that the candidate is just like them, an ordinary person with similar needs and ideas. Name-calling is attaching a negative label to an opponent. Bandwagon appeals to the desire for voters to follow the crowd. And transfer is the connection of the candidate to a respected person, group, or symbol. Direct orders is frankly asking an audience to do something, while testimonials is the use of a respected individual's support. When reading and listening to political messages, be aware of the kinds of propaganda techniques that might be at work. Recognizing them will help you decide how to act on the messages. In addition to running ads paid for by candidates and interest groups, the media put out their own information about candidates and issues. This information comes in two forms: editorials and news reporting. In their editorials, the media give their opinions on ballot measures and candidates. News reporting, on the other hand, is supposed to stick to the facts. Election news reports give information about what a candidate says and does. They tell what a candidate said in last night's speech, for example, or what the candidate has promised to do for the schools. Even though news reports give facts, not opinions, they can present these facts in ways that favor one candidate over another. In other words, bias, which means favoring one point of view, may show in the way the media report on elections. For the most part, the media usually try not to show bias. They do not want to be accused of favoring one candidate over another. However, reporters, news directors, and editors have their opinions, likes, and dislikes. Sometimes their feelings affect their work. How can you spot bias in news reporting? Bias can show when stories about one candidate are given more time or space or better placement than stories about other candidates. If you were running for class president, how would you feel if a story about you got 10 lines on page 6 of the school newspaper while your opponent was given half the front page? Another sign of bias is when the media play up the negative side of one candidate's personality or behavior. They may run stories, for example, about a candidate's bad temper or a divorce that took place years ago. Such stories, though they might not have been lies, can give voters a bad impression of the candidate and influence the way they vote. Along with reporting on what candidates are doing and saying, the news media also present the results of opinion polls. Polls can show which candidate people favor at a certain time, why they like that candidate, and what issues they think are most important. The basic idea behind a poll is that you do not have to talk to every person in a group to find out what the outcome of that group's vote will be. A poll asks questions of a sample or small part of the group. The answers given by the people in the sample are then taken to stand for how the whole group would answer if everyone were asked. Polling, however, works only if the people are chosen at random, that is, by chance. Choosing a poll sample by chance helps make sure that the views of the people in the sample will stand for those of the whole group. Most of the major national polls use random sampling and ask fair questions. Polls are not always accurate, but they do give a sense of what the public is thinking. However, not all polls reported in the news are based on random samples. A poll that gets answers from only certain kinds of people may not be very accurate. Such polls include those in which people send in answers to lists of questions in magazines or call in their answers by telephone. Some people think that polls should not be used. They believe that polls can change the results of the elections. They point to voters who say they will vote for a certain candidate mainly because that candidate is leading in the polls. In other words, those voters will jump on the candidate's bandwagon. Also, some voters may decide whether to vote or not based on the results of opinion polls. Studies suggest that if the polls show a huge gap between candidates, some people believe that the leading candidate will win, and they do not bother to vote. Today, many voters receive most of their information by watching the television news. For this reason, television has had a big impact on the way people see the candidates, understand the issues, and cast their votes. Critics charge that television has made election issues seem unimportant because it covers the more exciting activities of the candidates rather than paying attention to the major issues. These people also say that to make election news exciting and appealing, television tries to reduce campaign stories to 20-second sound bites that catch viewers' attention but give little or no information. Television has also had a powerful impact on the way candidates run their campaigns. They make their messages short and simple to fit easily on the television news. They also plan campaign activities that will look good on TV. Overall, television has created a new kind of political candidate. A person running for high office today must come across well on the screen. This television candidate, by and large, must be good-looking, have a compelling personality, and be at ease in front of the camera. Otherwise, he or she may face a tough time in an election. Even though network news is not always the best source of facts about the candidates and issues, good sources do exist. Public television, special network programs, newspapers, and magazines all provide fuller coverage. It may take more work to seek out good information. However, if being an informed voter is important to you, the effort will be worth it. So that's the way it is with Lesson 3, Part 2, how candidates and groups try to influence your vote. At this point, you should know that there are many ways by which campaigns can influence voters. Interest groups are organized and help candidates who support their views. Propaganda helps candidates and issue-based organizations influence the ways in which voters think about them. And the media plays a role in helping to shape a campaign's message and how the candidate appears to the public. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to have the entire catalog of civics videos available at your fingertips. Click the subscribe button and then click the follow bell to receive notifications as to when the channel is updated. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in class, Dragons.